The Galactic Council's cruelty. The Galactic Council had always been feared across the galaxy. They ruled with an iron fist, making sure that no one dared challenge their authority. Most alien races submitted to their will without question. Earth, however, was different. For years, humanity had kept to itself, avoiding direct conflict with the Galactic Council. Earth had grown strong, but humans preferred peace. They wanted to explore, learn, and build relationships with other species. The Council, though, saw humanity's rise in power as a threat. One day, the Council decided it was time to remind Earth who was in control. They captured a young human child who had been living on a distant colony. This child, no more than 10 years old, was taken from their family and brought before the Council's leaders. The Council wanted to send a message to humanity, one that would strike fear deep into their hearts. The child, scared and confused, was held in a cold, dark room on a Galactic Council warship. The Council had no mercy. They wanted to show their strength in the cruelest way possible. High-ranking officials from different alien species stood and watched as the child was tortured. They didn't care about the innocence of the child or the cries for help. To them, this was a show of power. They sent a live transmission of the child suffering directly to Earth's leaders. The video showed the child in pain, crying out for their parents. It was clear that the Council wanted to humiliate Earth, to make them feel powerless. They believed that by hurting the innocent, they could break the spirit of humanity. But they were wrong. When the people of Earth saw the transmission, they were horrified. There was shock, anger, and a deep sadness that spread like wildfire. Families sat in their homes, watching the news in disbelief. Schools played the video in classrooms, and children cried at the sight of one of their own being tortured. The whole planet mourned. However, the Galactic Council had made a grave mistake. They underestimated the strength of the human heart. Instead of breaking humanity, the Council's cruelty only united them. People who had once disagreed now stood together. Earth had always been divided by different governments, but in this moment, they became one. Leaders from every corner of the planet gathered to discuss what to do. The child's suffering had lit a fire inside them. They could not let the Council's actions go unpunished. Earth had remained peaceful for too long, and now they were ready to fight. The Council believed that humans would be too afraid to respond. They thought that the message of the tortured child would make Earth back down, but they didn't understand humanity at all. Humans were more determined than ever. The Council's cruelty had created something dangerous, a united Earth, driven by the desire for justice. As Earth's leaders watched the video of the tortured child again, they knew what had to be done. The Galactic Council had to pay. Revenge was no longer just an option, it was a necessity. Humanity couldn't let this act of cruelty go unanswered. In the streets, people held up signs demanding justice for the child. Military forces were already preparing for war, and factories began building weapons and ships. The message was clear. Earth was going to strike back, and they were going to make sure the Galactic Council regretted ever hurting a human child. The Council had set out to make an example of Earth, but they had underestimated the humans' will to fight. They had thought that cruelty would make humanity weak, but instead, it made them stronger. The Council would soon learn that their actions had started something they couldn't control. Earth was coming for them, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Earth stands together. The news of the Galactic Council's cruelty spread quickly across Earth. Everywhere people turned, the same heartbreaking image was shown. A young human child being tortured, crying out for mercy, while the Council stood by without care. This was no longer just about a political struggle between Earth and the Council. It had become deeply personal. In the days following the broadcast, the people of Earth reacted in ways no one had predicted. Before, there had always been disagreements between nations, arguments over borders, and disputes over resources. But now, all those conflicts seemed insignificant. Earth had one common enemy, the Galactic Council, and the planet had never been so united. Leaders from every country, military force, and major corporation gathered in an emergency summit. It was the first time in history that Earth had come together like this. The anger was palpable in the room. Everyone had seen the same footage, felt the same rage. But now, it was time to decide what would come next. The president of Earth's largest nation stood at the front of the room, his face hard with determination. "The Council thinks they can break us," he said, his voice calm but full of purpose. "They think they can tear us apart with fear. But they've made a terrible mistake. Today, we stand together, not as different nations, but as one united Earth. We cannot allow this cruelty to go unanswered." Around the room, leaders nodded in agreement. There was no argument, no hesitation. For the first time, Earth's governments were speaking with one voice. At the same time, people on the streets were showing their solidarity. Cities around the world held massive protests, not against their own governments, but against the Galactic Council. People held up signs demanding justice for the child. Crowds gathered in front of government buildings, urging their leaders to take action. And for the first time in years, there were no fights, no violence, only a shared sense of purpose. Military forces from every nation also joined together. Soldiers, once divided by borders, now trained side by side. Generals who had once been rivals were now planning together for the war that was coming. Earth's armies were preparing for something big, and it was clear they would not stop until the Council paid for what they had done. Meanwhile, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to upgrade Earth's defenses. Factories began producing weapons and ships at a rate never seen before. Spaceports were filled with activity as ships were readied for the coming battle. Earth had never been so focused. Every part of society was moving toward the same goal: revenge. The Council had expected Earth to back down, to be too afraid to fight, but they had underestimated humanity's ability to come together in times of crisis. The pain of seeing an innocent child tortured had united Earth in a way that nothing else could have. Now, instead of fear, there was determination. Instead of hesitation, there was action. Earth's leaders sent a final message to the Galactic Council. It was short and simple. "We will not forgive. We will not forget. And we will not rest until justice is served." The message was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. The Council received it, but they did not respond. They believed Earth was still too weak to challenge them, but they had no idea what was coming. As the days passed, the preparations for war continued. Earth's fleet was nearly ready, and the soldiers were eager to fight. The whole planet was watching, waiting for the moment when the first ships would launch. No one was afraid anymore. They had seen the worst the Galactic Council had to offer, and now they were ready to fight back. For the first time in history, Earth was united, not by fear, but by the hope of bringing justice to those who had suffered. The people were ready, the armies were prepared, and the message was clear. Earth stood together, and they were going to make sure the Galactic Council never hurt another human again. A decision for war. In the days following the broadcast of the Galactic Council's cruel actions, Earth's leaders faced the toughest decision they had ever encountered. The unity on Earth was clear. The people wanted revenge for the tortured human child. But deciding how to act was not simple. Every move they made would shake the future of humanity and the galaxy itself. In the massive war room, Earth's leaders gathered again. Representatives from every nation, military force, and scientific organization sat around the large table, tension heavy in the air. At the center of the room was a large hologram displaying the known planets of the Galactic Council. Their territories were vast, and their military strength was unmatched. At least, that's what everyone had thought before. "We cannot afford to act in haste," said General Thompson, one of Earth's most respected military minds. His voice was steady, but there was a trace of worry behind his calm exterior. "The Council's forces outnumber ours in nearly every way. We may have unity, but we must not be reckless." Across the table, the president of Earth's leading nation nodded. "We must strike back, but we cannot rush into a full-scale war. If we fail, we risk everything." Humanity cannot survive a war we're not prepared to win. The room was silent for a moment as everyone considered the weight of the decision. War with the Galactic Council was not just a battle. It was a fight for survival. Losing was not an option. But not everyone in the room was cautious. One of the younger representatives, a commander who had risen through the ranks after the attack on the child, stood up. "With all due respect," she said, her voice filled with passion, "we cannot show fear. The Council thinks they've broken us. They expect us to hesitate. If we hold back now, they will think they can continue to treat us like we're beneath them. We must strike, and we must strike hard." Her words stirred something in the room. There was no denying that Earth had been wronged, and the desire for justice, or revenge, was strong. But General Thompson shook his head. "We must be strategic. If we hit them too soon, without proper planning, we risk a long, drawn-out war that could cripple our resources. Earth must endure." Then, a voice from the back of the room spoke up. It was one of the chief scientists who had been working with Earth's defense forces. "What if we didn't need a long war? What if we could end this conflict quickly, before it spirals out of control?" All eyes turned to the scientist, curious. "We've been developing new weapons, advanced technology that could give us an edge. With our fleet nearly ready, we could launch a surprise attack on one of the Council's key planets. A show of force, one they won't expect. If we hit them hard enough, they may rethink their stance. It could force them to the negotiating table before more lives are lost." The room buzzed with discussion. A quick, decisive strike could send a powerful message to the Galactic Council. But it was a risky move. If the attack failed, the Council would retaliate with full force. The President stood again, raising his hand for silence. "We have a choice before us," he said. "We can seek revenge with all our might and risk everything. Or we can be cautious and risk being seen as weak. But I believe there's a middle path. We strike, but we do so carefully, with precision. We show them we are not to be underestimated, but we do not act recklessly." The room fell quiet as everyone considered his words. "Let us vote," the President said at last. "A decision must be made, and once it is, we will all stand by it." The votes were cast, and the decision was clear. Earth would strike back, but it would do so with strategy, with a plan that could bring the war to an end swiftly. The people of Earth would get the justice they demanded, but not at the cost of their own destruction. The decision for war had been made. The war begins. The decision had been made. Earth was going to war against the Galactic Council. It was a moment that would go down in history, a point of no return. The people of Earth watched anxiously as the final preparations were made. Military forces were mobilized, and the spaceports were filled with the hum of engines as ships were loaded and prepared for battle. Earth's fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. While the Council had always underestimated humanity, thinking of them as a backwater race, they had never taken into account Earth's resilience. Over the years, Earth had developed advanced technology, powerful weapons, and a fleet that could challenge even the might of the Council. In the capital city of Earth, people gathered in large crowds, watching as their ships ascended into the sky. The mood was a mix of pride and fear. This was a war that no one had asked for, but it was a war that they were ready to fight. The image of the tortured human child remained fresh in everyone's minds. This was not just a war for survival, it was a war for justice. On the command ship, Resolute, Admiral Jackson stood before his crew, his face set with determination. The ship was the largest and most powerful in Earth's fleet, armed with the latest in human weaponry. It was a symbol of Earth's strength and their refusal to bow down to the Galactic Council. "Today, we make our stand," Admiral Jackson said, his voice echoing across the command room. "The Galactic Council believes they can terrorize us, that they can break us with their cruelty. But they are wrong. We will show them the strength of humanity. We will show them that Earth does not kneel." His words were met with a roar of approval from his crew. They were ready. Every man and woman on board knew the stakes, and they were prepared to give everything for the cause. The plan was simple but bold. Earth's fleet would launch a surprise attack on one of the Council's most important planets, Eridon Prime. It was a strategic hub for the Council's military operations, heavily fortified and guarded by the Council's elite forces. But Earth's leaders knew that if they could take Eridon Prime, they would send a powerful message to the Council. Humanity would not be bullied. As the fleet approached the planet, the tension on the Resolute was palpable. The ships were in formation, ready to engage. The galaxy had never seen such a force from Earth before, and the Council's forces on Eridon Prime were unprepared for what was coming. "Prepare for battle," Admiral Jackson ordered, his voice calm but firm. The first shots were fired as Earth's fleet engaged the Council's defenses. Laser fire lit up the dark void of space, and the battle began. The Council's ships scrambled to respond, but Earth's fleet was fast and well coordinated. The surprise attack had caught them off guard, and it showed. Earth's ships pressed forward, cutting through the Council's defenses with precision. On the ground, Council troops scrambled as Earth's soldiers landed and began their assault. The battle was fierce, but Earth's forces fought with a determination that the Council had never seen before. Back on Earth, the people watched the live broadcasts of the battle, cheering as their ships gained the upper hand. The tide was turning in humanity's favor, and for the first time, it seemed possible that they could win. Admiral Jackson stood at the helm of the Resolute, watching as the battle unfolded. His heart swelled with pride as he saw the bravery of his soldiers, the strength of his fleet. But he knew the war was far from over. This was just the beginning. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity, and now they were paying the price. The war had begun, and Earth was ready to fight with everything they had. The first battle was a victory, but the war was far from won. The Galactic Council would not go down easily, and the fight for justice was only just beginning. The first planet burns. The victory over Eridon Prime had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council, once confident in their supremacy, now found themselves staring at an enemy they had gravely underestimated. Earth's forces had proven not only their strength but their willingness to strike where it hurt the most. But this was only the beginning. Back on Earth, the Council of Leaders watched the reports closely. The world had changed in just a few short hours. Humanity was now at war with the most powerful force in the galaxy. And they were winning, at least for now. But the real test was yet to come. In the heart of Earth's command center, the military high command gathered to plan their next move. General Thompson, whose steady hand had guided Earth's forces so far, stood at the head of the table. "We've struck a blow to the Galactic Council," he said, his voice measured and calm. "But they will retaliate. We need to be ready." The president nodded. "We must keep the momentum. Our people are behind us, and the galaxy is watching." "What's the next target?" A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room, showing several Council-controlled planets. Each one was strategically important, but one stood out. Gryphon IV, a key military outpost for the Council, heavily fortified, and home to one of their largest weapons factories. If Earth could destroy it, the Council's ability to fight back would be severely weakened. The decision was made. Earth's fleet would strike Gryphon IV next. But this time, it wasn't just about victory. It was about sending a message. The Council had shown no mercy to the human child they had tortured, and Earth would show no mercy in return. As the fleet prepared to depart, the mood was different from before. There was no longer fear of the unknown. Now there was only determination. The soldiers aboard Earth's ships knew what was at stake, and they were ready to do whatever it took to protect their home and seek justice. Admiral Jackson stood aboard the Resolute, looking out at the stars as the fleet made its way toward Gryphon IV. His mind was focused, his heart heavy with the weight of the mission ahead. This time, the plan wasn't just to win a battle, it was to burn the planet to the ground. When Earth's fleet arrived at Gryphon IV, the Council's forces were waiting. Unlike the surprise attack on Eridon Prime, this time the Council was prepared. But Earth's forces had something more powerful than numbers or technology. They had purpose. The battle in space was fierce. Council ships launched a brutal defense, but Earth's fleet had come with a mission. And they were relentless. Laser fire lit up the sky, and ships from both sides were destroyed in the chaos. But Earth's ships pressed forward, breaking through the Council's lines and reaching the planet's surface. As Earth's soldiers landed, they wasted no time. The factories that fueled the Council's war machine were targeted first. Explosions rocked the ground as the factories were destroyed one by one. The Council's forces fought back, but they were overwhelmed by the ferocity of Earth's attack. On the command ship, Admiral Jackson received the final report. "Sir, the factories have been destroyed. Gryphon IV is burning." He nodded, his expression grim. "Good. It's time to finish this." Earth's fleet began the final phase of the plan. Total destruction. The ships launched a bombardment from space, raining fire down on Gryphon IV. The planet's defenses crumbled under the onslaught, and soon the entire surface was engulfed in flames. The once mighty outpost of the Galactic Council was reduced to ashes. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Gryphon IV had burned, and the galaxy took notice. The Council's forces were in disarray, and for the first time, they feared humanity. Earth had shown that they would not be pushed around, and they would not forgive cruelty. But even as the people of Earth celebrated, they knew the war was far from over. The Council would strike back, and the battles ahead would be even harder. But for now, they had sent a message loud and clear. Earth was not to be trifled with. The first planet had burned, and the war had truly begun. The Galactic Council panics. The destruction of Gryphon IV sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. Once seen as an unbeatable force, the Council now faced a reality they had never expected. Earth was not only fighting back, but winning. The burning of their key military outpost had thrown their plans into chaos and left them scrambling for answers. In the Grand Council chamber, the Council members gathered in a state of alarm. The room, normally filled with a confident hum of bureaucracy, was now tense and uneasy. The leaders of the Council had always prided themselves on their power and control, but the recent losses had shattered their sense of invincibility. Councillor Vrax, the head of the military division, slammed his fist on the table. "This is unacceptable. We underestimated these humans, and now they're attacking our very core. We must respond immediately." Councillor Sereth, known for her strategic mind, tried to stay calm. "We cannot afford to panic. We need to understand how they managed to strike so effectively. Our defenses were supposed to be impenetrable." "We know how they did it," snapped Vrax. "They used surprise and speed. They hit our weakest points while we were still reeling from their first attack. We have to tighten our defenses and prepare for more attacks." The room fell into heated debate as the councillors argued about the best course of action. Some wanted to retaliate with overwhelming force, while others suggested a more measured approach to avoid further escalation. But there was one thing everyone agreed on. The Council had to show strength to regain control. Meanwhile, on the front lines, the Council's response was already in motion. They began mobilizing their remaining fleets, dispatching reinforcements to protect their key planets and secure their remaining strongholds. They sent out urgent orders to their commanders, instructing them to fortify defenses and prepare for a series of counterattacks. In the darkened halls of the Council's command center, the atmosphere was charged with urgency. The Council's strategists and military leaders worked around the clock, analyzing data and plotting their next moves. The once unshakable confidence of the Council was replaced by a palpable sense of fear. The realization that their enemies were capable of inflicting serious damage had shaken them to their core. "We must regain the initiative," Councillor Sereth said as she reviewed the tactical reports. "If we don't, we risk losing not just our planets, but our entire grip on the galaxy. We need a plan to counter these humans, and turn the tide of this war. As the Council scrambled to formulate a new strategy, Earth's leaders continued their preparations. They knew that the Council's panic could mean more aggressive attacks and tougher battles ahead. But it also meant that the Council was vulnerable, and Earth's forces had to take advantage of that. Admiral Jackson and his team reviewed the intelligence reports coming in from their scouts. The Council's increased military activity was evident, and the Earth's fleet had to be ready for a potential escalation. The Admiral's face was serious as he addressed his officers. The Council is on the defensive, and they are reacting with fear. We need to stay focused and prepared for anything they might throw at us. The mood on Earth was one of cautious optimism. The recent victories had boosted morale, but there was an understanding that the Council would not give up easily. The people of Earth watched the news with mixed feelings, pride in their military's achievements, but also anxiety about the potential for further conflict. In the Council chamber, the debate continued. The leaders were divided, each with their own vision of how to respond. Some wanted to strike back immediately, while others advocated for a more strategic approach to weaken Earth's resolve. The Galactic Council was in disarray, their once unshakable confidence now replaced by panic. The human threat was real, and it was forcing the Council to rethink their approach to the war. For the first time, the Council was facing a challenge that might be too great to overcome. As the Council debated their next move, Earth's forces prepared for the next phase of the war. The battles ahead would be fire and fury. The Galactic Council was reeling from the losses, but their resolve hardened. They were determined not to let Earth's successes define the war. With a renewed sense of urgency, the Council's leaders ordered a massive counteroffensive. They intended to hit back with everything they had, unleashing a wave of destruction in hopes of reclaiming control. The plan was simple but brutal. The Council would launch a series of coordinated attacks on Earth's major cities and military installations. They aimed to cripple Earth's infrastructure and morale, sending a message that the price of defiance would be too high. The attacks would be swift and devastating, designed to overwhelm Earth's defenses before they could react. In the command center of Earth's military, the atmosphere was tense. General Thompson and Admiral Jackson gathered with their top strategists, analyzing the latest intelligence reports. The news was grim. The Council was preparing for a large-scale assault. Earth's forces needed to be ready. "We knew they wouldn't take our attacks lying down," General Thompson said, his face serious. "The Council will come at us with everything they've got. We need to be prepared for a full-scale assault." Admiral Jackson nodded. "Our previous victories have given us an edge, but we can't afford to be complacent. We have to defend our key positions and protect our cities. If we can withstand their attack, we can turn this war in our favor." As the Council's fleets approached Earth, the scale of the operation became clear. Massive warships, their hulls bristling with weapons, moved in formation toward their targets. The ships were part of a coordinated strike force, designed to deliver a crippling blow to Earth's defenses. The first wave of attacks began with a barrage of missile fire. Explosions lit up the skies above Earth's major cities as the Council's forces unleashed their fury. Buildings crumbled and fires erupted in the streets. The cities were caught off guard, the surprise attack hitting them with devastating force. In the chaos, Earth's defenders scrambled to respond. Anti-aircraft systems fired into the sky, trying to intercept the incoming missiles. Ground troops mobilized, rushing to the sites of the attacks to provide assistance and fight back against the invading forces. Despite the chaos, there was a sense of unity and resolve among Earth's people. The attacks on their cities only strengthened their determination to fight back. The news broadcasted images of the destruction, but also stories of bravery and resilience. The people rallied around their military, offering support and aid wherever they could. Admiral Jackson and General Thompson watched the unfolding disaster with grim determination. "We need to strike back," Admiral Jackson said. "We can't let them break us. We have to show them that Earth will not be defeated." The counteroffensive began with a series of coordinated strikes against the Council's fleets. Earth's ships launched their missiles and energy weapons, targeting the attacking warships with precision. The battle in space was intense, with ships on both sides exchanging fire. On the ground, Earth's forces engaged the invading Council troops. The battle was fierce and bloody, but Earth's soldiers fought with a determination fueled by their desire for revenge and justice. They pushed back against the Council's forces, reclaiming territory and protecting their cities from further destruction. As the conflict raged on, the Galactic Council faced mounting losses. Their initial wave of attacks had caused significant damage, but Earth's response was swift and effective. The Council's forces found themselves in a fierce struggle, unable to break Earth's resolve. Back in the Council's command center, the mood was one of growing frustration. The attacks had not yielded the decisive victory they had hoped for, and the counterattacks from Earth were taking a toll. The Council's leaders realized that their strategy needed to change if they were to regain the upper hand. Earth's defenses are tougher than we anticipated, Councillor Vrax admitted. We need to adjust our tactics if we are to succeed. As the day wore on, the battle continued with no clear winner. Both sides were exhausted, but neither was willing to back down. The fight for control of the galaxy had reached a new level of intensity, and the outcome remained uncertain. The fire and fury of battle had set the stage for a turning point in the war. Both Earth and the Galactic Council were locked in a fierce struggle, each determined to emerge victorious. Final battle. The war between Earth and the Galactic Council had reached its climax. After weeks of intense conflict, both sides knew that the next battle would decide the fate of the galaxy. The Council, battered and bruised, had regrouped and prepared for a final decisive push. Earth's forces, equally resolute, braced themselves for the ultimate confrontation. On Earth, the command center was a hive of activity. Generals and admirals were busy finalizing their strategies, knowing that the outcome of this battle would determine the future. General Thompson stood with Admiral Jackson, both of them focused on the holographic display showing the deployment of Earth's forces. "This is it," General Thompson said, his voice steady. "We fought hard to get here, and we can't let up now. We need to hit the Council with everything we've got." Admiral Jackson nodded in agreement. "We have to end this once and for all. We're launching a full-scale assault on the Council's main fleet. If we can destroy their command ship and cripple their forces, we can bring this war to a close." The Galactic Council had assembled their remaining fleets in a last-ditch effort to crush Earth's resistance. Their command ship, the Vortex, was the heart of their operations. Protecting it was their top priority. The Council's leaders knew that if they lost the Vortex, their control over the galaxy would be in jeopardy. As the battle began, Earth's fleet advanced toward the Council's forces with determination. The sky was filled with the roar of engines and the glare of weapon fire. Both sides exchanged barrages of missiles and laser blasts, creating a dazzling yet deadly display of light and sound. The Council's ships formed a defensive ring around the Vortex, but Earth's forces were relentless. They pressed forward with coordinated strikes, targeting the Council's fleet with precision. The battle was fierce, with ships from both sides being destroyed in the violent clash. Admiral Jackson's flagship, the Resolute, led the charge. From the bridge, he directed his fleet with calm authority, issuing commands and making quick decisions as the battle unfolded. His eyes were fixed on the Vortex, knowing that its destruction would be the key to victory. On the ground, soldiers fought bravely against the invading Council troops. The streets were filled with the sounds of battle, but Earth's forces held their ground. They were determined to protect their cities and ensure that the Council's forces did not break through. In the midst of the chaos, General Thompson coordinated ground operations. His leadership and strategic skills were crucial in managing the defense efforts. He watched as Earth's soldiers pushed back against the Council's forces, their bravery evident in every fight. The battle raged on for hours, with neither side giving an inch. The Council's fleet was being slowly overwhelmed by Earth's relentless assault. The vortex remained a formidable target, but Earth's forces were closing in. Finally, Earth's fleet succeeded in breaking through the Council's defenses. The vortex was within reach. With a decisive strike, Earth's ships launched a concentrated attack on the command ship. Missiles and energy blasts tore through the Council's defenses, hitting the vortex with devastating force. On the bridge of the vortex, the Council's leaders watched in horror as their command ship was torn apart. The damage was catastrophic, and the vortex began to break apart. The loss of their flagship was a crushing blow to the Council's morale. As the vortex exploded in a brilliant fireball, the remaining Council ships began to retreat. The once mighty fleet was in disarray, and Earth's forces pressed their advantage. The final moments of the battle were marked by the sight of Council ships fleeing the scene, unable to withstand the onslaught. Back on Earth, the news of the victory spread quickly. The war was over, the Galactic Council had been defeated, and Earth had emerged triumphant. The people of Earth celebrated their hard-won victory, their unity and determination having secured their future. Admiral Jackson and General Thompson stood together, their faces reflecting both the exhaustion and relief of victory. They knew that the war had been won, but the cost had been high. The galaxy would never be the same, and the future would bring new challenges. But for now, Earth had achieved a hard-fought victory. The final battle had been won, and the Galactic Council's reign of terror was over. A new future for the galaxy. The dust had settled from the final battle, and the galaxy began to take stock of the new reality. The Galactic Council's defeat had marked the end of an era, and the once feared empire was now a shadow of its former self. Earth's victory had changed everything, and a new future awaited the galaxy. In the aftermath of the war, Earth's leaders began the process of rebuilding and planning for the future. The command center was filled with activity as officials and diplomats worked together to ensure a smooth transition from conflict to peace. General Thompson and Admiral Jackson were key figures in this effort, guiding the way for a new era. General Thompson, with his experience and leadership, focused on restoring order and ensuring that Earth's cities and military bases were rebuilt. "We've won the war, but now we have to make sure that our victory leads to a better future for everyone," he said. "Our job is to rebuild and help those who were affected by the conflict." Admiral Jackson, meanwhile, worked on strengthening Earth's alliances and ensuring that the galaxy remained stable. "We've shown that we're capable of defending ourselves," he said. "Now we need to build lasting peace and ensure that the mistakes of the past are not repeated." The Galactic Council's fall had created a power vacuum, and various factions were vying for influence in the new order. Earth's leaders knew that it was crucial to approach this carefully. Diplomats and negotiators were sent out to engage with other planets and species, working to form new alliances and establish a framework for cooperation. As Earth reached out to other worlds, a sense of cautious optimism began to spread. Many species that had suffered under the Council's rule welcomed the chance for change. They saw Earth not just as a powerful new player, but as a symbol of hope and resilience. Earth's diplomats worked tirelessly to build relationships based on mutual respect and shared goals. One of the first major steps was the establishment of a new Galactic Council designed to replace the old, corrupt system. This new council aimed to be more inclusive, with representatives from various planets and species having a voice in the decisions that would shape the galaxy's future. The goal was to create a more balanced and fair system of governance. On Earth, the celebrations of victory were followed by a period of reflection. The war had taken a toll on both soldiers and civilians, and the scars of conflict were evident. The government focused on providing support and aid to those who had been affected by the war, helping them rebuild their lives and heal from the trauma. The reconstruction efforts were extensive. Cities that had been damaged in the fighting were rebuilt with improved infrastructure and better defenses. The focus was not only on physical rebuilding, but also on restoring the social and economic fabric of the communities. Earth's leaders were determined to create a stronger, more resilient society. As the new Galactic Council began its work, Earth's role was pivotal. The planet's leaders used their position to promote peace and cooperation, advocating for policies that would prevent future conflicts. They also worked to ensure that the new council operated transparently and fairly, with checks and balances to prevent the abuse of power. The galaxy was entering a new era, one marked by the promise of greater unity and cooperation. Former enemies were now working together to address common challenges and build a better future. The scars of the past remained, but there was a shared commitment to moving forward and creating a more just and peaceful galaxy. The story of Earth's struggle and triumph became a symbol of hope and resilience throughout the galaxy. It served as a reminder that even in the darkest times, unity and determination could lead to a brighter future. The lessons learned from the conflict shaped the new era, guiding the galaxy toward a path of peace and collaboration. As Earth looked to the future, there was a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. The victory had come at a great cost, but it had also opened doors to new possibilities. The galaxy was now a place where different species could work together, learn from each other, and build a future that benefited everyone. Admiral Jackson and General Thompson knew that their work was far from over. The new era would bring its own set of challenges, but they were confident that with continued effort and cooperation, the galaxy could thrive. The story of Earth's rise from adversity to a position of leadership was just the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. Admiral Jackson and General Thompson knew that their work was far from over. The new era would bring its own set of challenges, but they were confident that with continued effort and cooperation, the galaxy could thrive. The story of Earth's rise from adversity to a position of leadership was just the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The future of the galaxy was now in the hands of those who had fought for it. With the old regime gone and new opportunities on the horizon, there was a sense of hope and excitement for what lay ahead. The lessons of the past had paved the way for a new, brighter future, and the galaxy was ready to embrace it.